Good evening, everyone. So, welcome to the October edition of our webinar series, the ProThoughts webinar series. The topic for today is PMP in Africa, and is it an investment or an expense? And it's kind of interesting. The World Cup, the Cricket World Cup 2023 has started this past week, and today, South Africa has started their World Cup quest with a bang. They've scored like huge runs, so it's kind of interesting that it kind of matches the topic and the relevance that we're going to talk about today. Okay, anyways, so we are going to go through the agenda. Before that, let me quickly introduce myself. So my name is Kedar Sathe. I am working as a senior consulting manager, and I have approximately 18 years of work experience. And I've done multiple roles within the project management industry as such. Okay, just 1 minute. Okay, so just going to put my screen on the full slide show. Okay, there you go. So I've been working in project management for the last few years, I would say, and mine is predominantly a projectized world, as I generally call it. I work on multiple implementation projects on cloud HCM, and that's what I live and breathe almost every single day. Uh, I have a team that is spread across geographies, so multiple countries, and that's really the interesting part of my profile. So I get to interact with a lot of people from different geographies. I kind of enjoy it because on most occasions the conversations are above and beyond the day-to-day work, which is what the real intention is. But yeah, that's where I kind of get to know a lot of people. It's basically a people job, so that is the core of running any project. And what I have also observed and understood is, after a certain point, you no longer look at project management just to have an impact on your professional life, and it kind of amalgamates into your personal life, and it also gives you some sort of a structure, and helps you in becoming more organized. There are quite a few things that you can also take away and use it for your day-to-day activities, like non-professional personal lives and all. But I do find its relevance hugely, apart from managing our projects and communication and risk and all the knowledge areas. So yeah, that's where my background is, and I hope it continues this way in the next several over the next several years. Okay, so this is the agenda for today. What we're going to look at is a brief of what has happened uh, post-pandemic. And why post-pandemic? Because obviously everyone is aware of the kind of things that happened during the pandemic, and now everyone is kind of getting back to their business as usual. A lot of global economies have started to bounce back, and things seem to be kind of coming back to normal. So we'll take a quick look at that. We'll also try and look at what the relevance is for certification like PMP, and what all things we can look forward, we can take away from the certification. Next, we will talk about certain value or values, as we generally talk during our workshops. What exactly you could benefit from having a PMP certification versus not having a PMP certification, for example, and tangibly what all advantages, what all benefits you could derive from not just PMP as a certification, but coming from the fact that it's been recognized all over, and it is one of the highly rated certifications across industries. And later in the webinar, we'll also look at some statistics that will give clear idea of how things have revolved around the PMP certification in general. Uh, Next, we are kind of going to filter our focus from Africa to Mauritius, and we will see what's happening in Mauritius post pandemic. What are the focus areas? How the economy has kind of bounced back. The government is trying to explore new opportunities, new sectors. So we'll take a look at that, which will kind of lead us into that what next slide, and then we'll also take a glimpse at some of the workshops that we will be conducting between now and end of the year. So these are our PMP certification workshops. So I'll share some information about that. So with that, let's move on. So I'm just going to share my audio on the call as well, so that will help you to listen to the video. So okay, so let's take a look at the video first, and then I'll talk about this slide in particular. This is what is going to happen, or is expected to happen between now and the next 2-3 years. So we'll take a look at that. Before that, let's quickly browse through this 2022 PMI jobs report video.
As we adapt to new ways of working and prepare for future disruption, organizations will see a growing need for skilled project managers. The PMI 2022 Jobs Report showcases emerging sectors and trending industries where project leaders can find opportunities to drive growth and innovation in every region of the globe. Countries in the Asia-Pacific region expect their economies to grow in 2022. Meanwhile, talent is in high demand in many countries and industries. While China's economy has experienced a slight slowdown, a number of factors should contribute to increased project activity, including consumer spending increases and China's energy transition plan. Supply chain disruption and rising energy prices, along with rapid digitalization, are driving an increased demand for project professionals in Europe, especially in IT. The current conflict in the region will have long-term humanitarian and economic consequences that will require response. There has been a spike in demand throughout Latin America for project managers, particularly in the technology and manufacturing sectors. Rebounding oil pricing, government investment in high-profile mega-projects, and international events like Expo 2020 Dubai and the 2022 FIFA World Cup promise to reinvigorate the region's economy and need for project managers. The Great Resignation and supply chain problems have put job seekers in high demand in the US and Canada as companies look toward automation and digitization to protect against future disruption. Despite the pandemic, the global demand for products manufactured in South Asia has continued to increase over the past 2 years. As a result, companies are willing to invest more in project managers with strong innovation and leadership skills. Nearly a third of global aid, roughly $32 billion, is spent in Africa, and that's fueling new development jobs across the region, up to 45% of which will need project talent. The demand for project talent is high around the world. Are you ready to take your career to the next level?
Okay. Okay, so hopefully this has given you, a background of how the global economy in different continents is expected to grow. Obviously, not every part of the world will have the similar domains or the industries where a bounce back is expected. So, if you look at Africa in general, as you can see, the expected GDP for the entire continent is approximately around 3.8%. And if you look at the industries which are expected to kind of outperform in 2023 and beyond, it's energy, IT, and construction. So it's very obvious if you take a glance at some of the important projects that are undertaken in this region this year, past year, and it's going to remain in focus for the next few years. Then it's mainly around the construction. There are at least two or three big dams that are being constructed. If you have browsed through internet, then Egypt is building a new capital city, which is it's going to be massive construction over the next few years, I would say. There's a lot of focus on renewable energy in Africa, especially in the Sahara Desert. There are various projects that are going to be tried to maximize the potential of solar fields that is one of the high investment spots, as you might know. And then IT is obviously it's going to be seen everywhere, not just in a particular country, because I think the benefits that one could derive out of implementation of IT projects in general is going to be beyond one's imagination, and it is massively going to impact the life of a common man. And it could be simple things like your mobile apps. It could be weather forecast for this region, and if then bring your attention to a country, an island like Mauritius, then obviously IT is changing landscape, and it's almost kind of an IT 2.0, as I would call it. Post pandemic, we've seen a lot of encouraging numbers around the IT world. A lot of things have gone online, which was not the case before the pandemic. So I think it's only going to go upwards from here. There are a lot of multinationals that are setting up offshoring centers in Mauritius. There's probably about 2,000 to 3,000 additional jobs that will be created in the next year. Now it might seem a very small number for someone who is coming from Australia, India, China, that part of the world, but that's still that number is very relevant in context of Mauritius, because it's a very small country, has a population of approximately 1.3 million. So with that context, I think that number is very relevant. So yeah, as I was saying, that there's a lot of push. There's a lot of government focus on new areas, new industries, and what it means is there will be a lot of projects that will be implemented. Then it in turn kind of creates the demand for more and more certified professionals, and obviously PMP is going to be one of the major certification that will kind of push your professional career. So I've taken this reference and I've given a link. So if you want, you can look at the full report, which is available on pmi.org. Um, if you look at the sheer value that the PMP is going to bring to any working professional, again, if you want to talk about the elephant in the room, let's start with that, and then it's going to directly give you a massive push in how much you're going to earn more after you get the certification. Now, the trick here, though, is if you feel that just by acquiring the certification, it is going to result into these numbers. Now, obviously, this is coming from the US, so everything will be in dollars. But I think if you look at the trend, I think that the trend will be still relevant to all the geographies. But the idea here is the way it works is after you acquire the certification, there will be few things that you will have to demonstrate, which you've probably learned through the course of this certification journey. It could be simple things as identifying the gaps that that you could see in your day-to-day activities, and what action you can take in order to bridge those gaps. Then you have to demonstrate that value to the business, and once the value is being delivered to the business or your customers, then part of that value will be kind of delivered to us. So that's how it will work. But if you think that just by having a PMP credential, day two your salary is going to go up, well, that's not going to really happen. So you'll have to first utilize that certification or the skill or the various techniques that are a part of this certification, and then you demonstrate that value, and then part of that value will come back to you. So that's really the numbers game, which you can very well see through this graph. There's one more video that I'm going to show you how the certification pays off, and here's what some of the professionals have to say about it. So
there's been a lot of benefits that the PMP certification has brought to me personally. The first is it's increased my earning ability.
When I took my position at Comcast, it was a $40,000 pay increase because I was the only applicant with a PMP.
I've been offered opportunities I would never have otherwise if I did not have the PMP.
I was able to earn more because my clients had more confidence in me to take on bigger and better projects.
And my advice to those who are considering PMP is get it. It is worth it. You're going to have a great return on your investment.
okay, so it's kind of very straightforward, and no rocket science there as to how it is going to impact, benefit all your professional lives in a way. And here are some of the values that I have seen personally, benefiting me, benefiting the way I work. So it's mostly coming out of my own experiences. So one is, obviously it's going to help you in having a complete command of your project activities. Now, although it's very high level statement, but a lot of things will be considered when I say that you will have a total command, total control of your project. It could be through your communication, the way you deal with your project team members, your stakeholders, your customers, your senior executives within the business. But that will definitely give you an objectivity as to how you're going to drive those conversations. A simple example would be, especially when it comes to communicating something about your project, the way, the language that you will use to communicate with a project team member as compared to a senior executive within your organization is going to be hugely different. And what you need to do is you will have to kind of adapt to what each one of those stakeholders are going to expect, and then present that data and communicate the right information to them. So that's one of the ways in which you will be able to demonstrate your communication, and then display that you're going to have a complete command, complete control of your project. Because you will be carrying out your project activities in a certain way, hopefully there is a lot of structure, but when I say hopefully, and hope is not a strategy, you will have to kind of work it out in such a way that if at any point there is let's say a potential risk, so how are you going to deal with that? What are the contingencies? If that risk still happens, then how are you going to mitigate that risk? How are you going to communicate about the changes that could possibly result from all these risks? So that's how you are going to demonstrate that you are in control of the project, which in turn will give the confidence to your business and to the customer. So that confidence is basically that, okay, my project is in one of the safe hands, and then I am sure that yes, there is a journey to be traveled between now and end of the project, but we'll definitely get there with the intention as to why we had started with the project. So I think that's how it will kind of help you in building that confidence, which will obviously then create that value for your customer and for your business. One of the key aspects of project management, or PMP in general, is going to revolve around quality. So again, quality is something that has to be inbuilt. You cannot have a separate focus just on quality. It's the way that you're going to complete your work activities, work tasks, and then help your customer in realizing, recognizing the value that your project is going to bring in. So often we have a mistaken point of view that we have to do something different or a separate set of activities in order to achieve a certain level of quality. But I think it's generally the way in which we will be doing our day-to-day activities, and that itself is going to result into a certain level of quality. So there could be little checks that you could introduce in terms of your checklist, in terms of your trend chart, in terms of your analysis that you do. But having those things introduced in your process at the right spot, at the right time, with the right people, having someone in the position of a consultant, it could be an audit team, it could be a third party, it could be an external team member. But the way you're going to kind of introduce it in your project life cycle, that is going to change the entire perspective of how things will be carried out. So again, quality is just one aspect. You've got several other knowledge areas which you can also consider while you control your project activities. It also augments your work organization. Now, why I say augment is because I'm not claiming that without a certification like a PMP, you will not be able to organize your work at all. But having a certification like PMP will definitely give you an insight of how and what all things you need to consider and what all things could go wrong and how you're going to prepare for those eventualities. Um, Again, a simple example in risk would be we as working professionals, whenever we talk about the word risk, we always start thinking about the negative effects of a risk. So what things could go wrong. But if you look at project management in general, a major portion of risk management is also towards what we call as the positive risk, or the opportunities, or the advantage benefits that a project could potentially bring. When I say project, it's really the output that could bring to your business, to your project team, to your stakeholders. So while you consider a lot of contingencies and mitigations for your negative risk or issues, it's also a good method of analyzing what benefits, what advantages, what opportunities could you create for your team members while working for a project. So the balance between that positive and negative risk management is something that you could also focus on. So that's just another example of the risk knowledge area that we have. But that's how you could augment your work organization. And as I said a few minutes back, it could also help you in a way that you are in a good position to identify and bridge the gaps. It could be process related, it could be communication related, it could be how you control your schedule, time, cost, everything. But I think the starting hiccup that we generally have is, if you're not able to identify the gap itself, then how are you going to work on it in order to get it fixed? So the objective is you identify, you probably do a brainstorming session with your group, you put together a focus group, you have benchmarking, for example, and then you arrive at a potential solution, and then try and bridge that gap, and then kind of it could have a positive impact your effectiveness, in your efficiency, in your productivity, or all three for that matter, and then how you realize that value or recognize that value for your customer. So these are some of the values. Now, obviously, every organization would be expecting different things from the implementation of different projects, but by and large, this is how you could get a certain value from a certification like PMP. Okay, so let's look at some numbers now. The 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 picture on your right, the fact file, this is as of end of August 2023. So as you know that the Project Management Institute, PMI, They have a lot of certifications that they offer to the project management community. So on your left hand side of that table is the number of active certification holders, and then obviously which certification they are representing. And as you can see, it's here where you see a massive jump for PMP. So the rest of the certifications, they are still in thousands. Some are even in double digits. But when it comes to PMP, it's suddenly 1.4 million. And I could again, I've been following this number for the last 2-3 years. Uh, if you go back to, let's say, 2020 or the early part of 2021, this number was around 1.2 million. So you could already see the difference, the huge difference. So within a span of 2.5 years, that number has grown by 225,000. It's not that the rest of the certifications haven't, but clearly the direction is there's massive numbers for PMP. I've also tried to get some data for Mauritius in particular. Again, you don't compare it with what you have in the US, Australia, England, India, China, because that's not going to be in the proportion. But again, the trend that you see in the global certification numbers, it's kind of reflected in the scenario that you see in Mauritius. So of all the certifications that PMI offers, again, still PMP is by and large or by far the most number of professionals preferred certification from PMI, and again, rightly so. So that's how the numbers stack up. There's also a lot of focus since the last few quarters, I would say, on disciplined agile. There are a lot of activities, especially around banking, finance, insurance, where there's again, as I mentioned, as part of the focus which the IT is going to bring to this sector, especially in the banking industry. We've seen a lot of new mobile apps, the way the customer portals, the entire UIX experience for the customers have completely been revamped in the last 2.5 years, 2.5 to 3 years. And something like an agile methodology has played a huge role in that. So there are a lot of banking institutions on the island that are looking out for positions like agile coaches, scrum masters, someone who could do a product owner, for example. And that's where you are now going to see a lot of increase in the number of professionals having the disciplined agile certifications or anything in that agile certification suite. But again, that's the scenario in Mauritius, and it kind of aligns to what we also see globally. Okay, so let's look at what's lined up in Africa. We already saw the three main industries. It was IT, it was energy, it was construction, and a lot is kind of similar in Mauritius itself. So um, if you look at the long-term strategy of the government since the last 10-12 years, the aim is to have Mauritius as a high-income country by 2030. So between now and the next 7-8 years. Uh, as you might be aware, Mauritius is always looked upon as a tourist destination. But after I've lived here for last 5-6 years, I also see that there's a lot of diversification that has started. So from outside, it although it looks like a tourism specific economy, but we also have agriculture. Sugarcane is a huge industry in a way, because again, a lot of the exports happen to Europe from the sugar industry. So that's another field area where the government is focusing. There's renewed focus on manufacturing. ICT is happening in big way. Again, the renewable energies portion, which was applicable for Africa, is also applicable for Mauritius, and in finance is obviously well known. So that's what the focus is. I'm going to show you a quick picture on the next slide that will give you the diversification within the Mauritian economy as such. So let's take a look at that. So apart from tourism or the sugar industry, agro is also going to be a major portion in the focus scheme of things for the government. But at a very high level, you can see that there are a lot of other sectors where there's a lot of attention given by the government. It could be wholesale or retail. There's this KPO thing, knowledge process outsourcing. So we have quite a few organizations who have started to venture out in that direction. Logistics, again, being a major port within the African continent, there's a lot of emphasis on logistics. If you just go to Google or look at some videos, you could see the huge change that we have seen in Mauritius, especially around the ports. There are a lot of for example, there are a lot of cruises that now take a halt on the island, and then obviously it has to have the supporting infrastructure if that has to happen. So there's clearly a lot of focus, a lot of emphasis on how things are going to shape up in the future. Not only that, but I think there is renewed interest in also making the population aware of how something is going to benefit to the island. I'll give you a small example. So, in the last 3.5, 4 years, Mauritius has implemented a metro project on the island. So initially, it seemed that the scope of that metro project is going to be, a certain area of the geography. But now, after looking at the success of this project, the government is also expanding the scope, and you now suddenly have phase 3, 4, 5, 6 that is being talked about. There are a lot of areas which we otherwise might not have thought are also being brought under the scope of that metro implementation project. There's a lot of construction activities going on the island. There's one major flyover that got introduced a couple of years back, maybe year and a half back. There's a huge bridge that is in progress right now, which is expected to be thrown open to the public by end of this year. It's going to be a massive game changer in a way, because this is something that has been tried for the first time on the island, and probably in the Indian Ocean islands economy as such. So a lot of things have already started to take place. It is not just that all of these things are only on paper, but a lot of visibility is also there. We could see how these projects are impacting the day-to-day lives of the common man. So I think there's an active interest which is also being built upon. If we could just go back to the numbers that we saw, just to give you a perspective. As you can see here, there's 281 active PMP certification holders at the moment on the island. I've just pulled these numbers from the PMI registry. But I think the point I was trying to make is a lot of these 281 have probably come in the last 5 to 7 years. So you could also see the way in which the project management landscape is evolving. To give you another example, a lot of universities on the island have introduced project management as an MBA undertaking for their students, and all of these courses have kind of been open to the student community in the last 2.5, 3 years. Again, it's a post-pandemic thing that we have seen. So what they do is, instead of just having an MBA in pure business administration, they have MBA plus the project management additional skill set. So if you again go and browse the internet, you will see a lot of courses which says MBA in project management, and that's something which is a very encouraging sign for the project management community. Now again, if you compare a PMP certification with an MBA, obviously it's not an apple to apple comparison, because PMP certification is never going to give you an MBA degree at the end of the day. But I generally tend to call PMP as more as a working certification, because you know immediately you could try and implement some of the things in your day-to-day lives which will give you a value. The results are visible. I was just talking to someone who had attended one of our workshop last time, and then what she mentioned was earlier they used to do some paperwork in order to get a formal approval from the business for their project. And she gave me an example that back in July this year, she had put in a similar document which took about 3 months for gathering this approval. And after attending this workshop, what she did was she tried to update that data in a different template. It was actually one of the template that PMI kind of recommended. And guess what? That approval came in like 3 days. So that is the kind of advantage we look at. So from 3 months or 2 months, it was down to 3 days. No massive change, but the way she interpreted and or not interpreted but presented that data kind of made a huge impact on the whole approval process. So that's how you could also benefit from the certifications that PMI offer. Okay, so let's look at what's happening from the workshop perspective. So we have got a couple of workshops lined up between now and end of the year. So there's two, one in October, one in December. We generally run these workshops in association with Finanotech, who is ProThoughts' local partner. If you want to reach out to ProThoughts and Finanotech, feel free to drop in a message, feel free to reach out, and they will get back to you with all the details, all the additional information that will also help you in registering for the workshop. If you have any information, if you have any questions, if you want to get any clarifications, feel free to drop in emails at ProThoughts or Finanotech IDs, and one of our team members will get back to you. Uh, ProThoughts in general is having a bouquet of services for all their customers. Certification and training and workshop is just one piece, but we also have talk project management. E-learning is a huge portfolio for us. ProMock is where we have all the exams that participants can then take, and there's a consulting piece that is also in function. We have got various softwares, tools that we implement that helps the project management community. So a lot of things going on within ProThoughts as well. We also have got a bunch of free webinars. If you want, you can take a look at that. You can also follow us for different updates on social media platforms, Facebook, LinkedIn's. We do a lot of webinars throughout the calendar year. If you want, you can join in, and that will also benefit you as part of your continuous learning experiences. So I'll just pause for 1 minute and see if there are any questions. If you have any questions, feel free to type in the Q&A chat window, and then I'll take those questions. If not, I'm also going to launch the poll for all the participants. So it would be great if you could just reply to that poll questions. Just thank you everyone for attending it on a Saturday evening. I hope you have a great rest of the